thank you very much again for joining LogTech Asia. So every time we do a virtual summit or hybrid, as it's become more popular this year, we try to organize a panel discussion with different speakers, and so this is what we do here. The panel discussion again is going to be focusing on LogTech, what's happening in the Asian market. So maybe the first thing I'd like to do is to give a chance to each of the panelists to introduce themselves and just tell us where you are, what you do, where you are, because people are always curious to know where you're located, and then we'll get started with it. So maybe we'll start with you, Alvin. Go ahead, make sure to unmute yourself before you start speaking.
Morning, everyone. Alvin, co-founder and CEO of Haulio. I'm actually based out in Singapore now, a little place in Commonwealth. Thank you for having me. We are Singapore's largest digital container trucking platform with the ambition to transform the landscape in Southeast Asia. Feel free to ask me anything regarding e-logistics trends or container logistics in general. Thank you.
Okay, great. Great to have you. Then we have Arjun. Go ahead, Arjun.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Arjun here. I'm the Senior Technology Evangelist at Infinium Robotics. So Infinium Robotics is a drone and AI-based company based out of Singapore as well, just like Alvin. So basically what we do is that we automate the inventory management process inside the warehouse. So please feel free to ask me any questions regarding drone, stock taking, inventory management, and AI use cases as well.
That's great. We have also David joining us. Go ahead, David.
Good morning, Sawadee Krap, everyone. Hi, I'm David, CEO and co-founder of Driver. We're a Thailand-based next-generation telematics startup, and I'm really looking forward to an awesome panel discussion.
Okay, well, then we have Firoze as well. Go ahead, Firoze.
Morning. I'm Firoze, CSO from Delhivery, India. We are the largest e-commerce logistics company here in India. In the 3PL space, we do about something like 1 million packages pick up and drop every day across India and cross-border in some countries. Thank you so much.
That's great. Okay, all right. And then we have Regine also from McKinsey, but she's still struggling to join us. Hopefully she will join the discussion at some point, and then I will, give her the time to introduce herself. So maybe I'd like to get started. Obviously, we've been through this since early last year, the pandemic, and I would like to understand from you guys, what has been the impact of COVID and more generally the pandemic on the LogTech sector, especially since last year? What kind of things have been happening in the sector? What have been some of your observations of the space in the past few months? Maybe we'll get started with you, Alvin.
Thanks. Since we are in the space of container logistics and trucking in general, we deal with a lot of having to deal with a lot of the manual logistics truck drivers. And what we are seeing is that the trend of COVID-19 led to quite a bit of big boost in terms of digitalization. So a lot of these trucking companies are now stepping forward to say, hey, I'm going to start using apps now. In the past, we had to struggle really to get them to use those apps, but now they don't have a choice. So I think that's really kind of the thing that we see on a larger landscape.
Okay. Yeah, Arjun?
Yeah, basically, COVID-19 has had real bad impacts on the industry as well. Basically, since we know a lot of warehousing customers within the logistics sector, right? So it's spoken to a lot, and it is a known fact that 75% of the supply chain industry has been disrupted due to pandemic as well. Now, specifically looking at the operations that happen within the warehouse, it is a labor-intensive process to do the cycle counting and stock taking. You need a lot of people to work, and in this current pandemic situations, the rules are such that people cannot get close to each other. They always need to maintain a distance, and the total number of people that can work inside a warehouse has drastically reduced. So this basically means that the productivity is also reduced at the same time. So basically what we see, the trend is that the timetable for companies and larger organizations to implement digitalization and other solutions like drone inside warehouse have rapidly increased. So they are planning to implement these solutions quite fast.
Okay, sounds good. David, what's your view on this? Just make sure to unmute yourself, David.
Sorry, my screen just froze up there for a second. Yeah, look, I would agree to some extent with both of those last two speakers, Alvin and Arjun, in terms of there's both been positive and negative aspects of disruption for digital startups like most of us here. That has been a huge plus, in fact, because digitization is becoming the normal. Companies that were formerly paper-based and handing things to individual people backwards and forwards, they can't do that anymore. So this is both a challenge and a huge opportunity. So I think it's a very interesting period, and we're living in challenging and interesting times. Thank you.
Firoze?
Hey, yep. The pandemic or the COVID was announced here in India, which suddenly had 6,000 trucks and 40,000 people not knowing what to do next. So we were almost like and a couple of million packages all across the country. So, but luckily within 3 to 5 days, we were able to swing back
Kind of struggling to hear.
That's primarily because we did a lot of work on automation to be able to move goods across automatic sorters across the country, which really helped us, and a lot of other digitalization efforts, which goes for deciding essential goods, non-essential goods, for which part of the country, for which pin code of the country, from where to pick up and where to drop and things like that. So that's how we were able to spring back, and that really helped. So I think it's been, as David said, it's been a big plus for the companies which had a strong background in technology, and the companies which did not have that almost had to vanish off. So I've seen a lot of companies just fold up in the last few months, and the companies which were strong in technology going forward. Thank you.
Okay, and then I want to understand probably more specifically from you, Alvin, or Arjun, or David, what has been happening for you as a startup in terms of running your operations and scaling the business. And maybe we can talk about the founding issues as well. I know that Alvin, you just raised another round recently.
Thank you.
So can you share with us a bit, what have been some of the challenges that you faced as in terms of, managing and scaling your own business? Yeah.
Yep. I think I was actually put into, thanks for the question, Max. I was put in a position where it's a little bit unique. The business was actually growing very good. But when COVID actually struck, there was a small little problem where VCs, we were actually fundraising last year at the start. And you start to see VCs having a little bit of a chicken feed, right? Because they start to have, they don't know what's going to happen with COVID, right? So with that kind of growth happening and we're trying to raise funds, first and foremost, the best thing that happened was that at the very least, as a tech startup, our team and everything is really remote from day one. It was easy for us to transit there. But the more relevance in terms of running the business, I think the difficulty obviously is having to survive COVID, and that was what we did. And we just basically had to fight through that difficult period where we had to downsize a little bit, but while at the same time having to measure the growth. But we were very lucky to have backers and investors that really believe in the business, and very thankful that we managed to close off the round, and now we are on a good front for 2021. Very excited.
Okay, Arjun?
Yeah, I think on a similar note to what Alvin had said, and just an extension to what was already mentioned. So basically, as a smaller company working in this innovative space, the impact of COVID-19 basically meant that, we were unable to go to different countries and deploy the solutions. For example, we have some inquiries and customers interested in Malaysia to deploy the solution. So our solution was actually matured, and then we have already had a successful implementation based out of Singapore. So we were in a plan to expand and then go to different countries and implement it. So that basically stopped. But basically what we see this as an opportunity because of this pandemic. A lot of customers, they're well aware of digitalization and then, how to reduce manpower and then all these laborious processes as well. So this has actually created a lot of interest and then a lot of inquiries that we are receiving. And one of the things, we basically work from home when we don't have any demos or particular. And what we intend to do is that there is one advantage which happened basically, which we were not doing previously. We were doing live demos, right? We invite customers over to our warehouse and then we give them a demo. Now what we are resorting to is basically to give remote demos to customers so that, with the click of a button, they are able to see what is happening inside the warehouse. So this basically means that we can have more number of customers, who are interested to see the demo, onboard them so that we can expand this base as well. So this is one of the advantage which we have faced as well. And slowly we are getting a lot of interest from investors in terms of investing in the company, which is a good sign as well.
Did you have to also kind of lay off or optimize your own operation, Arjun, as a result of it?
Yeah, actually, we were already a lean team because we had a bigger team earlier, and then that was basically on a contract basis, and then we got most of the R&D work done. Now, once the solution has already been deployed, it's just basically maintaining the system, and then having one or two computer vision and AI engineers to develop this moreover. So we didn't have too much of layouts in our company. It was more that we were already lean helpless in this.
Okay. David, what has been your experience also, in Thailand, because, the country has been quite impacted as well with the pandemic, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen some significant changes in our business. We essentially executed a pivot last year. So we were essentially an IoT company where we have devices installed in customers' vehicles. Obviously with the pandemic, that's very difficult to do that. We had, customers no longer wanting to have third parties visit their vehicles or factories or warehouses. So what we did was we moved away from that business model. We're now primarily delivering our service via smartphone applications, via dashboards, and using existing devices that are already in the vehicle. So that's been quite a significant change for us. One of the results of that is that it means that we can deploy the service anywhere. Like we picked up a customer in Brazil a few weeks back with over 1,000 vehicles. We don't have any people in Brazil. We don't have any technicians. We don't have any installation people. So it's been a huge boost for our business, and it's been an interesting experience. So just to answer your question regarding Thailand, so obviously like many countries, Thailand has a heavy dependence on tourism. So in terms of the impact on us, we have a number of tourist dependent customers. Some of them unfortunately have gone out of business. Others have had to modify their business model and the way they do business. So an example of that would be National Car Rental. Their traditional customer base would be overseas foreign tourists. What we've done with them is we've been working on a car sharing solution for them that allows them to offer a cheaper, more flexible product for the local Thai and expat customers who are more price sensitive than say foreign tourists. So it's been a very, very interesting year, and those people who are, as Alvin said, those people are agile, who can move quickly, and adapt. Survive and grow. The others, have more challenging experiences, like Arjun pointed out.
Okay. Thank you, David. Firoze, I mean, obviously Delhivery is already quite a large player in India. But what I've been, you're probably following what's happening. I've seen a lot of activity last year in the LogTech sector with a lot of companies actually continuing raising funds and, being active in the market. Is that, will you agree with that? Do you know that the LogTech sector has been quite healthy despite the pandemic in India?
Yeah, I think the e-commerce is only about 2% in India as compared to probably China or US, where it's about 20, 25, 30%. So there's enormous growth opportunity available in the country itself. And luckily, because of the pandemic and COVID, so the country was literally forced to sort of, people had to buy on e-commerce because the shops and malls were all shut down. And so it was more of a challenge for the logistics companies and the e-commerce companies to be able to cater to that sort of requirement and cater to downstream cities like tier 3, 4, 5 cities where they were not normally present. So basically the big challenges was on the payment technologies front, was on being able to deliver with handheld devices, to be able to do proper route optimization for the trucks which are going, because you're delivering not just a phone, you could be delivering maybe some perishables and a fridge and a tablet or something like that, and all would be going to a particular address or something like that. So that's where there's a lot of technology involved to be able to to do it right and do it, the customer would probably switch to another platform and order from there. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, I see some questions coming up already, and I'm not going to wait to take them. So let's get started again. If you have a question on those topics, we have some other topics lined up, but I'm going to start by taking those questions. If you have a question for any of the panelists, go ahead and click on the Q&A, and we'll be happy to take them as they come. Question from Andy was saying, with the impacts of COVID and also the US-China trade war and rising nationalism in general with Brexit and the other countries, what is the panel thoughts on the balance of protecting your own business and developing partnership? That's a good question. Anybody would like to take on this one?
Maybe I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, the impacts of COVID we have already discussed. All the panelists have discussed on that, so I won't be discussing on that. So basically mentioning about other geopolitical situation that is happening, right? So these situations, as we move forward, there will be a lot of tensions and other confusions that are happening. But I feel that this wouldn't affect this particular industry as well, because technology as such is widely approved and used by different customers and by different industries as well. Now discussing about the balancing of protecting one's own business with developing partnerships, right? So I think the industry has moved further away from this rather than protecting themselves. It is a situation where they would like to partner with other companies. There could be different modes of partnership, right? So a bigger company acquiring a smaller company with a very unique technology that they have. Or in other ways, like a company like us, who are having difficulties expanding to different countries, we can establish partnerships, something like a distributorship agreement with different participants and different people around the globe, so that we can expand our base as well. So I strongly feel that without strong partnerships, this industry wouldn't move further, because different individuals have different capabilities, and working together in unison helps synchronize the entire process, and then we can leverage from that.
Thank you. David, yeah?
Yeah, so a very interesting and very broad question. So I think I'll give you one example of how nationalism or this international global political situation can severely impact the business. And this is our own business. So we have significant operations in Myanmar. For those who don't know, Myanmar is a strategically crucial country, right? It's in between India and China. It has access to the Bay of Bengal, and it also has access to southeastern China, right? So, just before Christmas, India announced a deal with Myanmar, where it was going to offer a number of submarines to Myanmar, which has traditionally been a very close ally of China. And it marked a clear shift of the move away from dependence on China or an ally of China. In the last few weeks, we've seen a coup in Myanmar, and that has pushed Myanmar back into the Chinese orbit, right? Now, in terms of practicality, what that means, we have operations in Myanmar. Right now, there's a situation of dual power in Myanmar, where there are two governments, right? There is the junta, regime, and then there is the previous NLD government. So in terms of the impact on us, we have lots of people coming to collect taxes from us, right? Who do we pay, right? It is a very, very difficult situation. And this is, geopolitically speaking, this is a direct impact of the increasing, political situation in the world, the conflict between China and the US, and the proxy war that's happening in different parts of the world. So anyway, all the best to the people in Myanmar. We have staff there, and obviously it's a deep concern to me and to anyone watching Myanmar what's going on there. There is a very, very tragic situation, and we certainly hope that a resolution can be found quickly for the benefit of all of the people in Myanmar.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very troubled area right now. Okay, and then we have maybe Alvin, what's your take on this? I mean, you're sitting in Singapore, which is much more safe than a place like Myanmar right now. What's your view on this?
I think for us, essentially, I've always been the belief that supply chain in general, I've always been quoting this, and I'll quote it again today to everyone here listening. In the supply chain world, my belief and everyone's belief is that your supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And I think it's a natural progression. I mean, we are in the business of moving goods. And if you always think about having to sort of protect your own and not open up, I think it will only hurt you more. That's my view. And I think and I personally believe that the future of supply chain will be an open, collaborative one. And I think if you can see, you can probably see here, but I think our tagline is together we cargo faster, and we really believe in that. Like really together, working together, and then things can move faster. That's my view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alvin. And Firoze, I mean, again, you're sitting in India, which also has been, seen a lot of effect on nationalism, especially against China as well. Without getting too much, into political issues, what's your take on this? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a situation in India where almost like 134 apps which were based from, and many of them are actually e-commerce trading apps. Some of them were loan apps, and some of them were just simple gaming apps. So in one shot, the government of India just shut down 134 apps, and that was a big blow to the e-commerce because many of them were e-commerce trading companies, and suddenly you found that they could not at all talk to their consignees or even probably give refunds to them, or if there were goods in transit, then it could not be moved further. Yeah, so those are situations which does arise due to geopolitical tensions, and the governments, well, finally, whatever the government decides, if the private player does not have much of a choice to choose from. Yeah, so I mean, this is a reality of the world, and probably we all have to go along. As far as funding from China is concerned, also there was a lot of talk because most of the startups here, I mean, all the big startups have funding from China also. I mean, whether it's almost everyone. So there was a lot of talk that whether we should curtail that funding or regulate that funding and things like that. But luckily, so far on that front, things are okay, and the funding is still coming in, and it's both cross, whether it's India to China or China to India. So that part is going well. I guess we keep seeing these ups and downs, and we have to be prepared for it, just like the COVID crisis or a pandemic. That, yeah, maybe some module may just stop working because the source of that particular thing is based from China. So we should be prepared to how to be able to sort of get over it. I mean, we also had the problem during the COVID that a lot of our sortation equipment, automatic bag sortation and package sortation equipments for like 100,000, 200,000 shipments, that was all from China. So that nobody could come from China to be able to install those equipments. Yeah, so those are issues which one has to be able to manage in real time and take it forward.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have another question. Again, if you have more questions for the panelists, go ahead, make use of a Q&A. But another question just came up from Patricia, was saying, she's asking, how do you think digitalization will disrupt or affect the traditional freight forwarding business? Will freight forwarding business be replaced by digital players completely in the next 3 to 5 years? Okay, that's a big question. Maybe Alvin, you would like to answer that?
Yeah, I think this is for me. My personal view is that there is a role. Okay, I think we emphasize what I said earlier again. I think there's a role that everyone has to play in this, and it's a big enough space. In the freight forwarding business, it's super fragmented. The largest freight forwarders in the world, actually, Kuehne+Nagel, I think last count, owns only 3.5% market share. You get the drift. It's fully fragmented. There is no single one large player. To answer the question directly, yes, I think it will affect the traditional freight forwarding business. If you don't transform, then yes, you will die. But I think if you transform and start to sort of take up digitization, you won't die. You will have a role to play. And the next question, will it actually be replaced by digital players completely? Definitely no. But I think you will see a big trend where the digital freight forwarders of the world, like Flexport. There's another interesting one coming up from Southeast Asia called Anderlin in Indonesia. You'll see more of this spring up. But I think having said that, my view is that it will not be a 0 or 1 thing. I think that's something that within the supply chain, people have to think about it, that it's always not 0 or 1. it could be a hybrid. And why I'm so hard on this is that actually it's the same logic for Haulio. We are a digital trucker, and we are working together with our traditional truckers, because if you look at my company's name, Haulio, there's no Haulio without hauliers, and I'm very, very firm on believer of that. So if you are a traditional freight forwarder, think about digitizing, think about moving forward. Don't be afraid, because the digital players will not completely consume you. Thank you.
Yeah, anybody else would like to comment on this?
Yeah, maybe I'll start. Yeah, basically just to answer, right, this is a very interesting question. Talking about digitalization, it is something which has already started disrupting the industry, and that it is already assumed that by 2023 or 2024, like most of this industry would already start deploying these solutions as well. So that is a known fact as well. And an interesting point out here is that more on the customer-centric applications that we're going to get. Just like how we stream music through Spotify and streamline our playlist, the same thing is going to happen with workers as well. People who are working in different industries, they will have a consolidated set of tasks which is suited for them as well. Because mostly what happens is that sometimes people working in the industry, they might be doing stuff which they might not be interested in. Moving forward by 2023, it is known that 40% of the staff are going to use digitalized technologies like these to do that as well. And talking about the freight, right, I would just like to, highlight one important fact, which I learned recently, was about sea freight. So for example, if you want to move a container via sea from East Africa to Europe, it has to move through like around 30 organizations and people. And then you can imagine a total amount of loss that can happen and delays that can happen as well. And when we talk about 30 organizations and people, right, it involves around 200 processes which happen in between. So your common sense would definitely say that these things would have to be digitalized, through smart contracts, smart agreements, with open information available to all the stakeholders as well. So this is something which we definitely are going to see, and then this disruption is inevitable.
Okay, David, what's your thoughts on this?
I'll be honest with you, it's not really my space, and I think Alvin has given a pretty good answer, and Arjun on this one, so I'll pass.
Okay, no problem. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What is the probability of shipping companies coming together to offer a common digital platform to enable the new digital technology to improve supply chain visibility? Anybody would like to answer that question from the audience?
I think Arjun's already started down that track of answering that question, and I think blockchain and smart contracts have a significant role to play, but I also think that this is extremely complex, and there are many different people involved. So in terms of answering the specific question about the probability, it's a difficult thing to answer. I mean, it's hard to predict. I think there was a blockchain example like a number of years back where I forget who it was. I think maybe IBM or one of those large tech companies did it with Maersk. Yeah, with Maersk, and that was an incredibly complex project, and that took a long time. This is not going to be something that's easy to do. I mean, we're working with a number of companies in Cambodia to introduce a kind of Uber for freight type scenario, which has this some common digital platform on it, and Haulio obviously good friends of ours and have something like that as well. So Alvin's probably the best man to take off from there.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So I think enough with the shipping questions. You can ask them more later. I think why it's interesting as well, I think, thanks for the question. The probability, like what David has mentioned, is a tough one to answer. But my view again is that I think there is a lot of noise in the market. The biggest folks like IBM, Maersk, no matter how big those giants are, at the end of the day, I call this personally like the mothership of all platforms. Like everybody wants to be the mothership. Right. If you want to be the mothership, then who is going to plug into the rest? So my view is that everyone should probably, for my personal case, I'm just trying to solve a smaller vertical of the supply chain by sort of aggregating digitally the truckers in Southeast Asia. And I'm happy to plug into many of these motherships. And I think there will be many motherships out there. And my last take to this is that I personally think that it will be, the future of supply chain will be a interoperability of many different sort of platforms. You have to be open, and it starts from being open. That's my view. Yeah, thank you.
But Alvin, I know that you guys are kind of building that, tracking platform, but I know you're interested in also in that overall e-logistic platform that we discussed earlier. What is an e-logistic platform? You guys are focusing on tracking, but there's also sea freight, there's air freight, and there's a lot of different platforms out there which sometimes don't always connect with each other as well. So is there such a thing as an overall e-logistic platform that eventually could take place in Asia?
I wish. I wish. There are a few. I mean, I sell a bit of stuff for my investor, PSA. So PSA as a port operator has this platform called Callista. Basically, they are trying to sort of orchestrate supply chain as a whole. And I think it's a good vision. It's a good strategy for the port to sort of move into this digitalization space. And this is just one example. And I think there are many others in China. And you actually spot on in terms of the supply chain. There's air freight, there's sea freight, there's land trucking, there is warehousing. I mean, we have folks on the table as well, Firoze with e-commerce. I think at the end of it all, the rise of e-logistics essentially means digital platform. I think the word platform is just way too overused over the past 5 to 10 years. Everything is a platform today, but what exactly is a platform, right? I think it's an idea of just like digital means of transmitting and sort of cross-exchanging information across the value chain or down the supply chain. And that's what I think sort of e-trend of e-logistics, what it means. But, it is very broad. I think I can keep going on and on. If you guys are interested, just listen to me at 5 p.m. Yeah, we'll move on.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, just to add on this, right? So this is a very interesting concept. So I agree to Alvin that there is no unified platform which can do everything. However, that is the ultimate goal that everyone is looking forward to. But looking at the solutions that we have, right? A solution. If we combine the solution that Infinium has, that Alvin has, that David and Firoze has, we almost have a full-fledged system already over here. So imagine the strength that we can bring into the table when different people work together and bringing it. Another interesting thing which I have experienced over the past couple of years working in this industry is that previously someone asked about the probability, right? How is this going to happen? And as David and Alvin rightly mentioned, we know who the big players are. And it's always the big players who start this movement. Like, for example, if it's blockchain and smart contracts, all these technologies, the bigger players start this thing. And then slowly it comes down. So it's always a top-down approach in this sector, even for the warehousing sector as well. Like the likes of DHL, started looking for solution that, fully automated drone solution inside the warehouse as well. And then slowly it drills down to the smaller player. But the interesting thing is that for bigger players, in terms of implementing such a solution takes quite a lot of time because there are lots of processes that they need to follow and fulfill in order to achieve this thing. So the gestation period is quite a lot for these bigger players. However, for the smaller players, since they don't have too many processes to be integrated, it's easier for them to implement. But however, sometimes, cash crunch or different factors don't enable them, or maybe even the knowledge of such systems enable them to use these. They are pretty much unaware. So I believe that platforms like these can help them, and then, the smaller players can also start implementing these solutions quite fast.
Firoze? Yeah, go ahead.
It's a different perspective. See, the role of the government regulators is also pretty critical in developing all these platforms and technologies. Like in India, with the government now making it mandatory for e-invoicing, e-waybill, e-proof on delivery, e-GST payment of taxes and things like that. Maybe in Singapore, it's been done a long time back. Yeah, but India was still moving the traditional way of the moving paper and then paying the taxes online on a different portal. So what I'm trying to say is that the government's activities also does have a role, and the companies have to finally plug in or get their data and the interchange from the government portals also. So apart from the private sector, I think governments have a role to play, and it's probably here the UN bodies on transport and shipping and air freight and things like that. They have a critical role because finally each country is going to make things in their own way, and then that is not going to be interchangeable. Of course, the GST or the HSM code is probably the only thing which is for customs which has been done. But there's a lot of other things which will need a lot of interchangeability across the globe. So it's not that some private player can just set it up and start, pushing data to everybody. So yeah, that's a challenge which will continue. And for countries to collaborate, it does take a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Firoze. Okay, we still have a few more questions are coming in. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and push it now. There's a technical question here. I'm not sure whether any of you can actually answer that. Is there any initiative to redefine the specification of dry box and liquid ISO containers to standardize the addition of tracking device? Anybody can answer that, or this is too technical for any of you?
David?
As far as I know, there's not. But look, there are some standards already in container tracking and containers. So, for example, there's CAN bus standards for passing data. In Australia, we're working with a number of companies and also with the government to introduce new pricing for containers. We have a container tracking solution that it connects to CAN bus and pulls CAN bus data that tells you all of the RSS events. So, for example, if the vehicle's about to tip over, then there's now an obligation in Australia to pass all RSS events, and this means anytime there's the wheels come off the ground on a container to the state or federal government in Australia. And there are some initiatives. I wouldn't say there's an international cabal working to to develop this standardization, but we've seen standardizations for OBD2, but there's different ones in different countries. So I think to answer that question, no, there isn't any real standardization, at least that I'm aware of. But there are individual countries working towards this.
Okay. All right. Another question. This is a question for you, Alvin. How do you source your customers? Especially right now, the way that you've been engaging with customers. Someone mentioned that, right? You talking to them through online demos, Zoom calls. So how do you actually do it now?
Okay, thanks for the question. Now, whoever asked that, yeah, it's a secret actually. I can't tell you. Now, jokes aside, I think customers for us has been quite organic. We're very blessed. I think it's a network effect. In the first place, let me define who are our customers. So basically, anyone who needs to procure trucking is a customer. And what's interesting is that anyone could actually procure trucking. It could go all the way down to shipping lines, to freight forwarders, to BCOs, even trucking companies. So trucking companies actually need procurement of trucking, mainly because they have a capacity constraint. When they have too many jobs, the only one that can help you is your competitor. So which is why I have always been of the view that we collaborate, and then that's how we actually work together from a trucker lens. And I think the way we source for customers today is a lot of organic means from our SEOs and network effect, and we see a lot of customers coming back essentially because they believe in the model of being able to acquire trucking digitally and at the same time at a relatively stable pricing. I think that's kind of the gist of it. Whoever that person is, you can just contact me in person. I can share this on stage. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I'd like to extend that question to you, Arjun, and also David. If you could quickly describe how you actually source and engage with your customers now.
Yeah. So maybe I'll start. So during the early stages, we used to attend physical exhibitions and conferences where we either go and speak and then we project our solution. We have a demo of our solution to different customers. So that was the primary source. But moving forward, we had the advantage that our solution was quite unique. Meaning to say that you wouldn't find too many players in this particular industry. So someone who's looking out for this particular kind of solution. So someone looks for a smart warehouse drone system, which is fully autonomous. Our name automatically pops up. So we didn't pretty much do something on the marketing side to do this. Everything was pretty organic just because of the nature of the business that we were in. And just because of the reason that we were the first to, introduce a fully working autonomous drone system for warehouses, that gave us a lot of popularity as well. And then, we were present in different news channels as well for interviews and everything. So that we garnered a lot of eyeballs and a lot of, interest from different customers as well from this one. So nowadays we resort to online platforms and sessions like these. Thanks, Max. I would like to take this opportunity say that these are pretty, good platforms where we can have a larger audience as well. So that is how we pretty much, do it. And also through our website contact form, we naturally get quite a lot of inquiries as well. So that is how we find out our initial, or we do the filtering of our customers.
Okay, thank you. David?
Yeah, I'll just be very brief on this one. So we've actually changed the way we acquire our customers. So traditionally we were direct. So we would market and try and source customers using various online and digital channels. Look, I'll be honest with you, that's quite costly, and it's hard to do that in Southeast Asia overall, right? Because each market's a bit different. So you've got, obviously, at one end you've got Singapore, at the other end you've got Myanmar and Cambodia and whatever. But there's different languages, there's different needs, there's different requirements and different regulations across each country. So what we're doing now, primarily in terms of sourcing customers, is through partner channels. So we have a number of large corporates who are actually actively selling our products. So whether they're insurance companies, telcos, or Japanese, trading companies, there are a number of different partner channels that we primarily use. So these days we don't sell much through direct, it's primarily partner.
Okay. Question for you, Firoze. Can you highlight a few precautions taken by 3PLs in India in case there's a second wave of COVID cases?
Yeah, this is a point of, because the first wave went down and now we suddenly have some of the states and some of the cities which are seeing a pretty sort of a sudden jump in the cases, though the vaccination by the government has also been started, but due to the sheer size of the population, I think that projections for that are probably after July or something, that we will have a good portion of the population to get the herd immunity done. So I think that as far as precautions is concerned, whatever we have been taking earlier, we just continue with that. We cannot stop just because someone has gotten the vaccination. He stops wearing a mask. He's absolutely cool that you cannot be like that. So this is something which COVID has taught, that you need to be continued with whatever precautions, contactless methodologies, whether it is for soap, water, just anything, not sharing water bottle helmets across bikers and things like that. So, I mean, all those precautions of social distancing and things like that, you have to continue to follow, and we just can't stop that. So that's the only answer for it.
Okay. Question coming from Felix, who's asking, do you think that AI and machine learning will help the logistic business or sector? What's your thought on this, on AI and machine learning? Anybody?
Yeah, maybe I'll start. Yeah, so ultimately, all these words like AI and machine learning, right? So previously it used to be buzzwords, and nowadays with logistics executives, knowing these particular words and having implemented or understanding these technologies, so these are not buzzwords anymore. Ultimately, if we drill down, right, it's basically the need of the customer. So if you look at it, it's very simple. They want a solution which is traceable. They want a solution which is visible, and also that provides them lower costs as well, because this logistics sector, there isn't enough of a margin, particularly for different players as well. So they always try to look for a solution that is cheaper for them. Now, this AI and machine learning is in every aspect, be it the hyper automation that is required for a supply chain logistics, or maybe the digital twin that we are looking at, where the AI and machine learning algorithms can improve the entire supply chain processes, understand the bottlenecks, look at locations where you can improve. And, this can also take live data directly from the drone system as well, in terms of understanding the inventory. Now, specifically, a lot of people might not think about this particular application inside a warehouse. So I would just like to highlight on that. So, a drone system that can fly fully autonomously inside a warehouse, and then, which can scan the goods, maybe barcodes, maybe QR codes. So using computer vision and AI algorithms, we are able to read these information. We are able to identify the pallets. We are able to identify the boxes and the contents as well. Now, a further extension to this, like personally what I've felt in our company itself, by implementing more AI and machine learning and deep learning processes, we are able to understand customers' goods much better. There could be different SKUs we are able to understand, like different boxes with different shapes as well. So only an AI-based solution can do this and at a lower cost as well. So that is why AI and machine learning is an inevitable a portfolio which is needed in all process as well. And our panelists have discussed different areas where these impact as well. So it is in all the sectors, starting from sourcing till it reaches the retail. This is a very vital thing that is needed.
Okay. If anybody else would like to comment, go ahead. Just unmute yourself. I will move on to the next question. There's another question again for you, Alvin. Can Haulio, through its extensive trucker base, participate in RFQs for certain clients and on our 3PL locking in service commitment rates for say 3 months or half year? That's a more technical question for you, Service, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking the question, Raymond. I didn't want to sell too much about Haulio today, but since you asked, so basically we have already been doing that for many of our customers. We are very proud to have the multinationals like DHL, Kuehne+Nagel, Siba, DB Schenker. So out of the top 50 multinational freight forwarders of the world, a good chunk of them actually have signed longer term contracts with us. So you can see that the model with Haulio essentially to answer this question, to align with everybody in the room, we are not a marketplace concept. I think the concept of Uberization is just making people have an idea that it's on demand. But with supply chain, or in my humble view, is that container logistics is a very scheduled business. You have vessels coming, calling, and their ETAs. It's not on demand. Right? It's a very scheduled business. And in that context, our operating model is just very largely different. It's through an aggregation of many different truckers coming together. And our arbitrage is the ability to sort of using data understanding of matching the best trucks to the job. To answer that again, I think essentially the answer is yes, because we have already signed long-term contracts with some of these and we give them service commitments, and our ability to match and ability to control these trucks are essentially coming in from a tech element. Right? Previously, what we're trying to do is use tech as an enablement. Monetize this business. Monetize. There's no difference between a normal truck that brings a container to somewhere. It's always the same. It's just a level of service. And what we are trying to do is to just use aggregation of technology. So David is here. We have been looking to explore working with GPS partners by having visibility of where these trucks are from a GPS lens. We come in from the jobs lens, and that can actually help match the jobs better. So essentially, I hope I answered that question, but Raymond, you can just feel free to take it offline with me. Thank you so much.
Maybe if I just pick it there. So it's interesting that like what Haulio is doing in terms of matching the truck to a particular job. One of the things that we're actually doing is helping the truck companies determine what's the best truck to use for a particular job. So for example, if you're hauling cement from Bangkok to Saraburi or vice versa, what should you be using a 380 horsepower truck or 600 whatever, so that's one of the things we've been doing with one of our customers, which is Fuso, helping them help their customers save more money on fuel and have the most optimal vehicle for that particular journey. So I think it's a really interesting space, and I'm looking forward to further collaboration with Alvin and the team. So.
Okay. All right. Let's take a final question from Sunil. I'm not sure whether you guys can understand, but I'm sure COVID has impacted each one. What are the things we should keep in mind so that our services are not impacted? Any digitized service will help. Please explain if possible. Anybody would like to answer that or understand this?
Basically, tracking and visibility, of course, that's the demand of all the customers. Customer is king, and COVID has almost completely eradicated the use of paper and things like that. So whether it's paper for proof of delivery, paper for pickup, paper for the riders to use when he's going on the ride to be able to deliver across various routes. So all this has to get digitized. If a company is not using this sort of service, tools or plugins or whatsoever, from whether it is from a large software supplier or smaller plugin suppliers. There are lots of SMEs now who have made plugins for different types of specialized niche components. And in fact, some of them are doing pretty well because they've just focused on one particular component and they've tracked it through the length and breadth of the different countries' logistics system. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge demand for it, and it will continue because everything finally has to be fine-tuned, and you want to have end-to-end visibility across the network. Yeah.
Okay. I want to wrap up because it's already in a 50 minutes discussion. I want to get you very quick tip or advice for companies which are listening and watching us. A number of companies are, I think what's been discussed this morning already, there's a lot of technology out there, and sometimes it's confusing or, difficult for, the end user shippers to actually figure out where should they start, which one should they adopt or try or test with our operation. What would be your advice to those end user shippers when they look at logistic technology, especially this year? Where should they get started? What should they be doing? Anybody would like to comment and just give you ultimate tip or advice for that?
Yeah, just to add on to what was the previous question, right? So somebody was asking about what are the things that they need to look out for. Actually, to give a broader perspective, it is very simple. The idea is that you look out for your pain points that you're facing in the industry. Look out for solutions, that are out there in the market, and there are a lot of good solutions out there which are already market proven. So if you find any particular solution, the immediate step should be to do a trial with this particular vendor. And once you meet the ROI and the return on investment, and then it matches what your company's aspirations are, then you should immediately deploy the solution. It's as simple as that. And earlier in the morning session, I remember one of the speaker also got this question, Shiv, and Shiv rightly mentioned that maybe if you're not sure of from where to start, maybe deploying cloud-based technology to start off would be a great idea, because as they progress forward and as they expand, it is easier for them to scale up as well. So yeah, so that would be my suggestion.
Makes sense. Yeah, Alvin, maybe your final tip also to people watching us.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a very good one. My view is that to close off this panel is that you got to try. I think I think coming from a lens of a startup, it was very difficult at the start for us. With a lot of companies not willing to try us, whether we're gonna die. I think the spirit of sort of endearing out and trying new things with the internet. I mean, anything is there. You can sort of do simple research. And if you're willing to try things out, I'm sure you'll get certain things. So I think to just further emphasize on what Arjun mentioned, have the spirit of trying things out, pilot, do simple stuff, right? But I think for all aspiring startups out there in logistics is that, yes, there are giants out there. When I fundraise, one of the not worst, sorry to get there, the hardest question, or the most, I would think, ridiculous question that I always get is that, Alvin, whatever you're doing is great. Why DHL can do that, or someone else big will just do that? And I was like, okay, fair point, but like, why would they do that? I mean, like, if you always think of that lens, then just don't do anything. Yeah, the big boys will always do it, right? But you got to try and you got to start. And I think that is my last message I want to send to everybody. Just try. I think logistics, we need to rethink what supply chain is, and it will be exciting and change of the world. It's not trucks anymore. It's data. It's IoT. It's all this sexy stuff. And it's not just sexy for the sake of being sexy. It is true. Right, guys? It's true. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Alvin. Firoze, your final tip maybe to the audience? Yeah.
Yeah. Logistics earlier was just about and nobody found it to be an interesting area to get in. But I think now with the manufacturers and the consumers also realizing that this is a huge pie in the cost of the product, cost and time of the product being able to reach to the consignee, and the different components probably have a lot to contribute in how it gets done. So yeah, I think logistics is a very good space. There's a huge demand, and especially with countries like India, where it's just 2%, and we could easily touch like to 4%, 6% or something like that of e-commerce compared to retail trade. in probably every year jump, sort of 40-50% jumps. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Firoze. And David?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a great panel, and I would like to highlight some of the comments that some of the guys have made, in particular when Alvin was talking about interoperability. So I think none of us here, and no single solution provider is going to have everything that you need. The best way to address a problem, or to try and, if you're a shipper, right, is to look at a problem, look at a company that can provide a solution that can connect via API to other solutions, to, for example, Arjun's awesome drone technology, to Alvin's, shipping platform. So, and to obviously our fleet management and IoT platform. So yeah, there's the best thing to do is to find those companies that aren't saying, yeah, we're the modern day SAP, right? We do everything. You can get every single solution from us, because you end up getting trapped into a single supplier, right? The best solutions are ones that work independent of technology. They're API driven, they're cloud based, and they change. Thank you very much. Kapun Khan.
Okay, thank you very much. With those final thoughts, again, I would like to thank you for joining this discussion. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Arjun, Firoze, and David, for sharing your experience, your insights on that topic. We could talk probably for an hour on many of the issues. We actually had a long list of topics, and we actually did not cover most of them, but that's okay. It was also the chance for you to interact and ask your own questions to the audience. So again, thank you very much for all those questions. Great questions today.